So the worst parts of male and female sexuality were blunted by marriage, right? So this is the pastor organizing the detente, the truce between the masculine and the feminine. And it worked to an extent, right? So the men's sexuality was blunted. Like generally, we want more sexual conquest and variety. That's a genetic disposition. The problem is that creates damaged women. And so we will get married to have sex and have children early in history, right? When marriage was still an institution, uh, you know, enacting stability. And, we might think about wanting more hotter, younger, tighter, etc., genetically. But we did have wives and we did procreate. So, it was a detente, right? The women, on the other hand, they have the same kind of dark drive, like the mere drive of our drive towards multiplicity is highest status possible. And so she was disappointed in that, or somewhat disappointed. So her hypergamy was blunted in that she thought, well, maybe she could have gotten a higher status man, but at least she had a man. And so you had this reconciliation, this squaring of the circle of the kind of contradictory dispositions of the masculine and the feminine. Now we have sexual revolution. We have inconsequential sexual relationships. So you have the pill, you have abortions, you have the internet. Now you actually have all the darks. There's no blunting of this, generally speaking. Maybe in about 6% of cases it works. The problem is you have this type of history, which, again, like 100 years ago, when we're 80% of women were virgins when they're married because of the social stigma, because of the culture, because of the fact that you know the likelihood of becoming pregnant if you engage in sexual activity is high. So with those consequences removed, now you have unrestricted hypergamy, unrestricted masculine sex drive. And in that case, we now have consequenceless polygamy, right? So the men can have the sexuality, the top level men, the top 5%, maybe closer to 1%, depending on the stats of the dating app. Top 5 can have that expression of unlimited sexual conquest and variety. And the women can express that they can go after the highest status men. And, they can date up. A 4 or 5 can date a 6, 7, 8, right? They can get sexual access to them. The problem is they can't get commitment. And so now you have a large portion, maybe 35 million women that don't get married over 30 because men don't want them and they don't want to be wives either. They don't want the men that want them because their self perception is so distorted due to unrestricted hypergamous access. The top level men don't want to get married either because they have unlimited access until they don't. And they don't, and so that is the dark sexual expression. The light sexual, well, they don't want the liability risk of marriage because they've seen actually the total dark side of the feminine if they're at that 5%. They've slept with cheating wives, right? They understand the full spectrum of a feminine expression. And so the detente is basically wrecked in this culture. And the mutual unwinnable war in many cases has commenced, right? And what that war looks like is what is it? 12 million divorces, 12 million unhappy marriages, maybe 11 million happy marriages, and a million happy marriages, right? We're at about a 5% success rate after 7 years. And it's usually the virgins that are happy in their marriage, in their union. Again, anything's possible with awareness and with God. And so there's no hard written fate here. But at the end of the day, where are we at with this behavior and this cultural reality? And ultimately, this could be the mechanism of social destruction and resetting. I mean, no high promiscuity, normative promiscuity society sustains itself. And so that's the challenge. And so, how are we adapting? Well, men are more aware. The women are more aware as well. So you have large age gap relationships establishing themselves. You have women are getting married younger as well to avoid the torture, the trap of hookup culture. And men are going overseas as well. And looking to establish a dynamic that fits their disposition, right? A lot of them want to have children and families, but they don't want to go through the liability risk and the emotional baggage of somebody who's engaged in hookup culture or is previously engaged and still carrying that. So, you kind of have to adapt with the times, be aware where you're at, but there is this natural clash between the sexes as far as our dispositions, right? If either one of them gets to express the full genetic drive, it destroys the other and destroys us both. So that's why marriage established itself, to prevent the men from running through and the women getting run through. And that's kind of what's broken down. And, people have to roll with the times until it reestablishes itself. So you go through a period of breakdown and chaos and then reestablishment. Because any culture, any society that sustains will have these institutions in place. So, that is the showdown, that is the detente, and that is the energetic shootout between the sexes.